Hello everyone, welcome back to our classroom. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at some CXC questions relating to fractions. In our previous lessons, we had gone through how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. And so we want to put all of that information together in this lesson and wrap it up. So we're going to look at some CXC questions where we can apply all of those that we learned. So the first thing we want to look at is how to perform operations on questions involving fractions. And secondly, we want to use order of operations correctly. Before we get into the fractions, let's talk about our calculators. Your calculator is a very, very important tool that you take to your exam. What I understand with most students is that when they get a calculator, they simply throw away the manual and just proceed to using the calculator. And because of that, many of them do not learn how to use this very, very important button here, the fraction button. The fraction button is that button that allows you to write fractions and thereby use your calculator to perform operations on fractions. So if you can find your manual, this button is a very, very important button to use, or if you can get somebody to show you how to use it, or just play around with it from time to time and see how to use it. Very, very important button as it comes to fractions. Once you understand how to use this, you will not be getting any particular fraction question wrong, as long as you learn how to type it in correctly. Let's look at some of the questions though relating to fractions. Here's one that says using a calculator or otherwise, which means that you could simply type it in your calculator, show the working just the same, and get your answer. Now it says 2 1/4 plus 1 1/8, and that divided by 4 1/2. And notice that this line in the middle here is acting as a fraction, as a division line. It is a fraction bar right now, but it's a division line. So the first thing we want to do is to rewrite this question. So let us rewrite it as 2 1/4 plus 1 1/8 divided by 4 1/2. Now, notice that these are all mixed numbers, and since we're going to divide, it might as well just turn all of them into improper fractions. So let's go ahead and write them as improper fractions. Now, remember, to change a mixed number to an improper fraction, what you do is that you multiply the denominator times the whole number, and then you add the numerator. So we go 4 times 2, that's 8, and 8 plus 1 gives us 9. We have 9 over 4, plus 8 ones 8 and 1 9, that's 9 over 8, divided by 2 4s 8 and 1 9 over 2. Now notice that we have a bracket here, and according to our rules of our basic rules, we have some people say BOMDAS, some people say PEMDAS. In either event, brackets come first or parenthesis comes first. So we have to do that before we do any form of addition and subtraction. So let's work out our bracket first. Notice here, we have 9 over 4 plus 9 over 8. And these two fractions do not have the same denominator. We can make this fraction have a denominator of 8 if we multiply the 4 by 2. So let us multiply both of these by 2. So 2 times 4 there, and 2 times 9 there, and that will change this fraction so that it has a denominator of 8. Now we get 2 times 9, that's 18 over 8, plus 9 over 8. And remember, we are dividing all of that by 9 over 2. And 18 plus 9 there gives us 27 over 8 divided by 9 over 2. Now let's bring this up here and write it again. 27 over 8 divided by 9 over 2. Remember, for division, we're going to keep, change, and flip. So we're going to keep this as 27 over 8. We're going to change the division to multiplication, and we're going to flip this so that it becomes 2 over 9. Invert it. And this will give us 27 times 2 over 9 times 8, or 8 times 9. That gives us 54 over 9/8 are 72. And that's your answer. We can write this answer in a simpler way, Notice that the question did not say you should write it in its simplest form, but we're going to write it in its simplest form. Notice that this 2 can divide this 8. So we can say 2 divides itself 1 time, and 2 divides 8 4 times. Also, 9 can divide itself 1 time. 9 divides 27 3 times. And so now we have, again, in its simplest form, 3 times 1, 3, over 4 times 1, 4. So this is also your answer in its simplest form. If you're using a calculator, and your fraction button can also simplify fractions, so you will write it as this, and press your equal, and it actually just reduces it down to its lowest form. So it's a very important button to use, to know. All right, so these two fractions are actually equivalent. Now let's look at another question. Mark spends 3/8 of his monthly income on housing. Of the remainder, he spends 1/3 on food and saves what is left. We are to calculate two things: the fraction of his monthly income spent on food and the fraction of his monthly income that is saved. All right. So first, let's talk about Mark's income. And Mark's income is divided into 8 parts. 1, 2. Let me just draw a diagram here so that we can look at it in terms of a picture. So if this is representing Mark's income, and he spends 3/8 on housing, then 1, 2, 3, that's for housing. Then the question is, how much of his income remains? Then if 3/8 is spent, then what we notice is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eighths remains. And since we know that that is the amount that remains, then we can calculate the fraction of his income spent on food. Now he spends 1/3 of his income on food. So we want to find 1/3 of 5/8, and that is multiplication. And when we multiply that, 1/3 times 5/8, we get 5 times 1, that's 5, over 3 times 8, that's 24. So he spends this amount on food. Let's just write that. That's the fraction that he spends on food. Now, the next part of the question says, calculate the fraction of his income, monthly income, that he saved. Before we answer that, we need to find out the total that Mark spent. So how much money did he spend in total? Well, he spent 3/8 on his housing, and he spent 5/24 on food. So we need to add these two together. Notice again that these two have different denominators, but if we multiply this one by 3, we can get 24. So 3/8 gives us 24. Let's multiply there. So now we have 3 3s 9 over 24 plus 5 over 24, and that gives us 14 over 24. 14 over 24 is the same thing also as 7 over 12 if you reduce it down, dividing both of these by 2. So he spends 7/12. Now, in terms of saving and spending, his budget is divided into saving and spending. So in terms of saving and spending, his budget is divided into 12 parts. Let's look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's put 5, 6. A diagram is always interesting when we're doing these things. Let me just draw these down a little bit. All right, so he spends, this is 12 parts, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, yes. He spends 7 out of the 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that would mean that he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts left. So the fraction that would go to savings would be 5 over 12. But let's work it out using numbers. So since his salary, he has one salary, and that salary is split into saving and money spent, and you want to take 7/12 from it, then this 1 has to be rewritten in terms of our denominator. So we have that 1 becoming 12/12. Remember, 12/12 is 1, minus 7/12. And once we do that, we can subtract 12 minus 7, 5/12. And this is the amount that he saves. So saves, and this is the amount for food. All right, let's look at another one. Here we have a question that has addition and division. Remember the order of operations. We must multiply and divide before we add and subtract. And because of that, we need to work out this part first. So we need to put a bracket here. All right, now let's rewrite this question as 1 2/3 plus 2 1/8 divided by 3/4. And once we see that, now we need to work out this bracket first. Let's put them in their improper form. So 3 1s 3 plus 2 5. That's 5/3. Let's deal with the bracket. 8 2 16 and 1 17. So let's write that in. 17/8 divided by 3/4. All right, so let's work out the bracket. Remember, when we're dividing, we keep, we change, and we flip. So we are going to have in our bracket 17/8 times 4/3, which gives us 17 times 4/8 times 3. And we can do some division here. Notice that we can divide 4 into 8. So 4 can divide itself 1 time, and 4 can divide 8 2 times. So we have right here, when we work out the bracket, we get 17/6. And so to continue our question, we have 5/3 plus 17/6. 17/6 is what comes out of the bracket. Now notice again that they don't have the same denominator, but we can make this have a denominator of 6 by multiplying the 3 by 2. So we say 2 times 3 and 2 times 5. And that gives us 6. So we have 2 5s 10, 10/6 plus 17/6. And that gives us a lovely number of 27/6. And this is our answer. We can write this as a mixed number by saying how many 6s can we get out of 27. That's almost 4. 4, and a little bit left over. 6 4 is 24, and 3 left over. And remember, 3/6 is the same thing as a half. So this is the same thing as saying 4.5. That's our answer. Now let's look at another one. Here we have a question that says, using a calculator or otherwise, calculate the exact value of this. Now notice that here in this part, you have a power, an index, and its division. So first, let's turn this part of the question, this mixed number, into an improper fraction by saying 4 1s 4 plus 3. So that gives us 7/4. We'll square that. And then we're going to divide by, let's turn this into an improper, 2 3 6 plus 1, 7/2. Now, 7 square means 7 times 7. And 4 square means 4 times 4. Divided by 7/2. So we have 49/16 divided by 7/2. I'm just making sure I go through all the steps here and not skip any, so that if you're following, you won't have a problem following. Of course, you won't have to do every single step. And now 49/16 divided by 7 over 2. Remember, we are going to keep, change, and flip. So 49 over 16 times 2 over 7, which gives us 49 times 2 over 16 times 7. Now we can do a little bit of division here. So let us divide it out. We can divide 7 by itself, and 7 into 49 goes 7. And we can also divide 2 and 16. 2 into itself, 1 into 16 goes 8 times. And so we're left with a smaller answer. And our answer is 7 times 1 is 7 over 8 times 1, which is 8. It's always nice to write our answer in their simplest form, even if the question doesn't ask it. Notice the question just says express your answer as a fraction. We have a fraction here, and that means that you shouldn't put your answer in decimal at all. So we leave it there. That's our answer. We have one more question to go through. And here is our question. It says calculate the exact value of. Notice it doesn't say that you should use a calculator or you should do everything manually. It doesn't matter. Whichever method you use, it's up to you. If you use a calculator, remember to show your steps, because the person marking your paper will want to see that you understand the process. So use your calculator and show the steps at the same time. So 4 ones 4. Let's change all of these changes to an improper fraction. We're going to work out the brackets first. 4 ones 4 plus 3, that's 7 over 4 minus 1 over 8. So that part is subtraction, and then we have plus. This bracket says 5 over 6 divided by 2/3. Okay. Now we want to have our same denominator on this part because we're subtracting. Now we want this 7 over 4 to have a denominator of 8. To do that, we can simply multiply by 2, because 2 4s are 8. And 2 7s 14. Now we are renaming this fraction. So it becomes 14 over 8 minus 1 over 8. And in this bracket over here, now remember we're going to divide. So we keep, we change, we flip. So 5 over 6 times 3 over 2. So we're working on two different things at the same time. Now 14 over 8 minus 1 over 8 becomes 14 minus 1. And that gives us 13. So that's 13 over 8. And we're going to add to that. Let's work out this part. 5 times 3 over 6 times 2. Notice that we can do some division here. This 3 can divide the 6 2 times. So what we end up with is 5 over 4. 2 2's 4. So it's plus 5 over 4. Almost done. Now again, notice that these don't have the same denominator. One is 8, one is 4. We can make them have the same denominator by multiplying this 4 by 2. And of course, we have to multiply the whole fraction. So we rename that fraction, and we get now instead 13 over 8 plus 2 5's 10 over 8. And adding these gives us 23 over 8. And we can rewrite this as a mixed number. It's almost almost 24, yes. So we have 2 8s that are 16 and then 7 remainder. So this is your answer as well. Remember that you can find more past and practice papers on our website at csecmathtutor.com. And there is the textbook as well that you can look at. There are many exercises there that you can practice with. Please remember to subscribe before you go, and share this video that you found with somebody else who needs to learn this kind of information and who probably needs the extra practice. Thank you for watching, and continue to learn and grow.